The human population refers to the total human inhabitants of a specified area, such as a city, a country, a continent or the world at a given time. The study of human population as a discipline is known as demography, and one who studies population at the advanced stage is a demographer. The study of demography as a subject is an interdisciplinary field of study which involves mathematics and statistics, biology, medicine, sociology, economics, history, geography and anthropology.
It is concerned with the size, composition and distribution of populations along with patterns of changes of populations over time through births, deaths and migration, as well as the determinants and consequences of such changes. Population study is important particularly for governments for planning in the field of health education, housing, social security, employment and preservation of environment. Demographic studies provide much needed information to formulate the population policies of governments, as governments are concerned to modify demographic trends so as to achieve the objectives of economic and social developments. World population has been growing at an alarming rate since 1650. The unprecedented surge in population has caused and is still causing rise in individual consumption of food, water and exploitation of natural resources like land, water, fossil fuels, minerals, vegetation, etc. The combined effects of population growth, consumption, overuse, wastage and misuse of resources has strained the capacity of the earth to sustain life. That is why the study and control of human population is very important today.
India, with 1,210,193,422 people, is the world's second most populous country, while China, with 1,350,044,605 people, is on the top. The figures show that India represents 17.31% of the world's population, which means that 1 out of 6 people on this planet lives in India. Although the crown of the world's most populous country has been on China's head for decades, India is all set to claim the numero uno position by 2030. With a population growth rate of 1.58%, it is predicted that India will have 1.53 billion population by the end of 2030.
The scientific study of interrelationships among organisms and between organisms and all aspects, living and non-living, of their environment is termed as ecology. Thus, ecology relates to environment, and ecological impact of population means impact of population on environment and its various components. The ecological impact of population growth includes impact of population growth on physical and biological components of the natural environment. Physical environment means non-living environment, that is, land, air, water, soil and minerals. There has been a manifold increase in the utilization, overuse and misuse of physical resources due to the growth of human population. As stated earlier, more population means more mouths to feed, which requires more agricultural production. more agricultural production demands two things: more cultivable land and advanced agriculture. More cultivable land has been made available by clearing forests and by reclaiming wetlands, ponds, and green belts. Advanced agriculture requires utilization of more water, more fertilizers, and more pesticides. Application of fertilizers and pesticides makes the soil infertile. Clearing of forests has its own serious impacts, and the environment on the whole gets imbalanced.
More population means more space to construct houses and a greater demand for consumer goods. It also requires more means of transport and more consumption of fossil fuel, thereby causing more pollution of air, land, and water. Different pollutants are causing numerous problems in the physical environment that in turn affect the biological environment seriously.
The population explosion of earlier days and of the present day as well has already caused and continues to cause serious impacts on global environment. As far as biological environment is concerned, human population has dangerously impacted the biological systems comprising flora and fauna as well as biological diversity. An ecosystem is the smallest unit of the biosphere. Since most of the components of the physical components are under serious threat due to population explosion, all biological components are bound to suffer the consequences. And hence, most of the natural processes have been altered seriously that have caused serious imbalances in the ecosystems. To increase cultivable land, forests have been cleared on large scales. Illegal timber trade by timber mafia and local pressure for firewood have further depleted our forest resources. These destructive activities of human beings have driven away many species of wild animals from their habitats, which has caused extinction of certain species. Forests have also been cleared for setting up industries and for urbanization. Thus, the habitats of varieties of birds and other animals have been destroyed through human activities.
There are other reasons for forest destruction as well. Two of those reasons are forest fires and zooming. Zooming is the system of growing crops by clearing forest land by burning the vegetation. It is also known as slash and burn cultivation. Apart from this, intensive agriculture and mining have also caused large scale destruction of habitats.
Frequent water crises in many parts of the world cause failure of agriculture, leading to hunger and starvation. Several varieties of plants and animals have become extinct due to water crisis. Frequent water crisis often compels people and animals to migrate to other places, thus causing overload on the resources of those areas. Poaching and killing of wild animals and illegal trade in their body parts have already caused the extinction of several species of animals. Generation of waste due to increasing consumerism and population explosion is the cause for the spread of serious epidemics and deaths of people in many parts of the world. Explosive growth in human population brings in its wake a number of serious problems like food scarcity, overcrowding, poverty, health problems, drudgery for women, increasing consumption, encroachment on monuments, strain on common social facilities, etc. When population growth leads to population explosion, it causes severe economic disparities and gives birth to competition for resources, price rise, hunger, malnutrition, and mass starvation. The gap between the rich and the poor has increased due to population growth. The rich people exploit more resources than poor people. Malnutrition is one of the most common effects of these problems. The poorest people in developing countries do not get adequate calories to remain healthy. Most poor children and adults suffer from severe vitamin and mineral deficiencies. These deficiencies cause failure of senses, mental disorders, and damage to vital organs. There are millions of starving people throughout the world. As per estimates, from 5 to 20 million people die of starvation across the world every year. There is limited habitable space on Earth. Overpopulation has caused severe strain on available land, which has in turn made inroads into forest and agricultural areas. People migrate to cities in search of jobs, and so cities are becoming overcrowded. Semi-urban lands and cultivable lands near cities have already gone under construction of houses. Even government lands like railway platforms, areas around monuments and parks are encroached upon. Increasing crowds in cities is aggravating the problem of pollution and insanitation, leading to the spread of epidemics. Green belts in urban areas and even sea beaches have been reclaimed for housing and industrial purposes. Poverty means having insufficient resources or income. In its extreme form, poverty is lack of basic human needs like food, clothing, housing, drinking water, and health services.
In developed countries, poverty has led to drug addiction, crime, and mental illness. Overpopulation, unequal distribution of resources, inability to meet the cost of living, inadequate education and employment, degradation of environment, unsustainable demographic trends and exploitation are the primary causes of poverty. Life in developing countries represents a picture of misery, hunger, and poverty.
The lack of safe drinking water supply, malnutrition, and poor hygienic conditions in the villages and cities of our country has resulted in serious health problems. The prevalence of waterborne and wash diseases are a serious concern. Women and children are the main sufferers. Men and women must have equal socio-economic status, but in our society, women are treated differently, though women generally contribute more to the economic growth of the family. In agroeconomic activities, women contribute more than men. Besides household duties such as collecting fuel wood, fetching drinking water, and washing, they are also involved in all agricultural activities except ploughing. Shortage of fuel, fodder, and drinking water compels village women to walk long distances to fetch water, collect fuel wood, and fodder. It is a simple truth that more people consume more food, wear more clothes, drink more water, need more houses to live in, need more medicines, make more noise, create more pollution, generate more waste. Some countries of the world have nearly stabilized their population, but their lifestyle has become consumption-based. We may take the example of the United States of America. Though it is not overpopulated, It alone consumes about 40% of the resources of the world and produces more than 21% of the world's carbon dioxide, which is a greenhouse gas.
It has been observed by ecologists the world over that powerful people and developed nations consume much more resources than weak and poor people or underdeveloped and developing countries. Thus, the rate of increase in consumption at one end is causing increase in hunger and crime at the other end. Only 20% of the world's population lives in developed and rich nations. According to the UN, the world's richest 20% of the population consumes more than 86% of the total resources of the world. Thus, population growth and the changing pattern of consumption are responsible for causing a severe stress on the environment.
A monument is a building, column, or statue of historical importance built in the past to remind future generations about a famous person or event. People who migrate from rural areas and work in cities often face difficulties, and most of them spend their nights out in the open. They take shelter on pavements, abandoned railway buildings, and in spaces around historical monuments. Gradually, they build temporary shelters around these places and bring their families. Some of them set up their business in these places, and gradually a colony of such persons is established. This is happening around most of our uncared monuments today. People who have encroached on monument sites and government buildings later stake a claim on the land. This is illegal and a criminal attitude. However, this condition is the byproduct of population explosion.
We need facilities both on the family front and the social front. More people means more use of the available facilities, but the facilities may be limited. So, there will be great rush and competition for the use of the available facilities, causing severe strain on those facilities. Community halls, bus stops, railway junctions, parks, playgrounds, hospitals, and even roads are some common examples of social facilities which are facing tremendous pressure due to population explosion.
One can see long lines of people standing for hours to get their work done. There is heavy traffic on the roads round the clock, and these social facilities are often heavily polluted due to the careless practices of human beings.
The developed world is already heavily urbanized, but in the developing world, only a quarter of the population lives in urban areas. Recent studies have projected that India will have a problem because of over-urbanization. 350 million Indians will move from rural areas to urban areas by 2030. And this figure is likely to double to 700 million by 2050. This is 2.5 times the size of US's present population and would be the largest urban movement in the world. This also implies that every minute for the next 20 years, 30 Indians will leave rural India for settling down in the urban areas.
As India urbanizes, it will face severe challenges, but there are huge opportunities for sustainable growth which can have a dramatic impact on the quality of life of the expected 700 million urban cities. These trends have important implications. In the past, world population growth was absorbed in both the developed and developing world. But in the developed world, as well as in the rural areas of the developing world, population has virtually stopped growing. As a result, most of the 3 billion people are expected to be added to cities in poor countries. In many of these cities, rapid future growth will further strain already overburdened infrastructure and public services.
Future population growth in developing countries is attributable to three main causes: unwanted childbearing, a desire to have a large family size, and population momentum. For a country that wishes to reduce rapid growth, a comprehensive population policy would ideally address all three causes by pursuing several strategies.
Strengthen family planning programs to provide women with the knowledge and means to regulate their fertility. These programs can lower fertility if they successfully provide clients with high quality services, because there is still a substantial unmet need for contraception and abortion. Meeting this need will reduce unwanted pregnancies, which now account for about 1 in 4 births. Emphasize human development, in particular education, gender equality, and child health. Improvement in these areas are instrumental in reducing desired family size. Since desired family size is still about 2 in most of the developing world, population growth will continue unless fertility declines further. Encourage delays in childbearing. This is a relatively new but potentially effective population policy option aimed at reducing population momentum. One of the more desirable ways to achieve childbearing delays is by raising investments in education, especially of girls, because it is associated with later marriage and onset of childbearing.
It is crucial that there is ecological harmony between balanced population growth and sustainable environment. In other words, growth and population must be in tune with sustainable ecological harmony, because population and environment are two faces of the same coin, that is our world. Therefore, human population growth within ecological limits can only ensure our sustainable common future.